Hey there, I'm Ian Douglas. I'm the author of the website techinterview.guide, and I'm here to help people with career advancement and interview preparation. My live stream on Twitch covers topics such as company research, how to build resumes and cover letters, applying for the job, getting through interviews, and what to do during negotiations. I've coached thousands and thousands of people over the years to get jobs at the biggest tech companies in the industry, and I'm here to help you too. The following episode is taken from a longer live stream event and may contain interactions with other people in chat. Check out the end of the episode for more information. Let's get to it. Stream time, we're at 2 hours. Cool, my name goes here. That's a good way to start a resume. Cool. So again, first thing I like to do on these is kind of zoom out on it a little bit, just to kind of get a sense of like how well did you use the space on the page. I think your name could be a little bit bigger. You got a really big margin here at the top. I'd probably move all this stuff up a little bit. Although moving it up a little bit is going to leave you like a big chin, as we call it, down the bottom. You're going to have a lot of empty space down here at the bottom. So it could be a place where maybe you add some extra project work or something like that. I would probably explain these projects a little bit more. You're only giving me one bullet point for all of these. So we'll dive in a little bit on some of that detail. First resume of the night, we see all these dates kind of lining up over here on the right edge. So good job on that. I would probably make all of these months just 3-character names. So NOV 2020 to May 2021. University of Mumbai. You don't have to tell me when you started. You can just tell me when you graduated. Bachelor of Engineering, Computer Science. This is fine. Again, as a hiring manager myself, I like to see the skills block at the very top. I like to see at a glance, do you even have the skill? Do I even need to keep reading this page? That's my take as a hiring manager. Not everybody feels the same way, but I think having the skills block at the very top just promotes like, this is who I am. This is what I do. You got a personal website on here. You got your email, you got your LinkedIn, got your GitHub. Those are all good things to have on here. Again, not a fan of that vertical bar. That's just my take. Depending on where you're applying, you may want to put a phone number on here. If you've taken it off for the sake of not letting the world see your phone number, then that's fine. I think your name could actually be a slightly larger font. I think you could probably make that a little bit bigger. I usually tell people you get 3 font sizes on the page. Your name can be like 18 to 20 point font. All of these headers here, if you're doing more of the style of format of the resume that we just looked at, these headers could be like 12 to 14 point, and you could also do 12 to 14 point like job title. So after your name, the next line would be like the job title, where you're like full stack developer or back-end developer or whatever you call yourself, and then all the other text on the page 10 point font. Everything else on the page 10 point font. Make it all the same size. Just makes it a little bit easier. That way we're not seeing like a ton of font changes and stuff like that. A little bit of style change, like some of it's bold or not, is okay. But you don't want the font and the layout and things like that to change so drastically that it becomes tiresome to read. So we'll dive in on that. So yeah, I would probably move this up top. Right away, I'm seeing that you used Redux at the job, but you don't list that as a skill here. So like just look for consistency, things like that. If you're comfortable answering questions at an interview about what Redux can do, because you list SAS on here, when humans read a list of things, here's some psychology of it. When we read a list like this, the things that we read first, we think you know better than the things at the end of the list. So when I read this list of JavaScript, React, HTML, and so on, it makes me think you know JavaScript better than you know SAS. If that's the case, then you know Redux better than you know SAS. Down here, you list SAS as a skill, but you don't list Redux at all. But if you know Redux better than SAS, why isn't Redux on the list here? So that would be something to keep in mind here. Also, MongoDB is not a framework. SAS isn't really a framework either. It's a library for doing styling. It's not really its own framework. React and Node, those would be frameworks. I would probably combine these together and say like languages/frameworks and just list them all on one line, because you do have a lot of empty space over here on the side. So you could probably build this stuff up a little bit more as far as like more of the libraries that you've used and some of the stuff you've done in your projects, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But then development tools, I'd probably put MongoDB down here as like just an other category where you list like Mongo, Git, CI/CD. Which CI/CD? Was it Circle CI? Was it Travis CI? Was it Jenkins? Like what was your CI/CD pipeline of choice? Tell me that. CI/CD just tells me that you're familiar with the concept of what CI/CD is, but have you actually used like any of them? I would like to see which one that you've used. Redux is not a framework. I'll change terms. Cool. Again, these are just my perspectives. By the way, I usually start all of these reviews by saying opinions are like armpits. Everybody's got a couple and some of them stink. Don't ever just listen to my opinion. I talked earlier about not centering certain things on the page. I would generally put like company, comma, title, or title, comma, company, and just put a comma in between them here, but don't center the company names on here. I think that it looks a little funny from that perspective. You're putting your tech stack here on the job in italics, which is fine. Wrote a custom implementation of a file uploader supporting file types like JPEG, PNG, MP4, PDF. This is fine, but like, why did that matter to the company? So again, similar to the last resume that we looked at, you're telling me what you did, but not the impact that it had on the team. And that's really what you want to do on a resume. You want to show me like, what was the impact that this had? By writing this, we were able to, manipulate more files of different data types that we had never supported before, or something like that. Conducted weekly Sentry triage meetings to monitor critical and repeated bugs. Improved role-based access control to support custom roles. So what I might do here is I would say like implemented custom roles in existing role-based access control system. And then like you left the default roles alone, so I think you could take this out for large MSP businesses. I like how you're kind of defining it here and then giving me the anagram or the initials of it here. I think that was well done. But in this case, if you didn't actually change anything about the default roles, you could take that text out and just say that, this is part of what I implemented, and it allowed us to work with these large MSP business. What's MSP though? Contributed to front-end infrastructure in upgrading the code base architecture from monolith to monorepo. I mean, to me, a monorepo is just you took a monolith and you're just stuffing all your vendor stuff into it. But it's still a monolith. It's still a monolith app in a single repo. It's just now you're also injecting all the vendor stuff. So to me, this isn't like a great statement. This really doesn't stand out to me as like, oh wow, you did that, cool. To improve developer experience and onboard. So you could say like contributed to monorepo development to improve DX and onboarding. But like, what was the impact of that? Was onboarding now 20% faster, 80% faster? Like, what was the impact that had on the team? So you improved it, but by how much? Do you have any sort of quantified information on there that you can put in there? Proactively contributed to code reviews as a daily practice. I think this is fine. It sounds a little buzzwordy, like proactively contributed. You could just say I contributed to daily code reviews. Mentored new talent, embarking the team. Embarking the team sounds a little odd as far as like choice of words. If you were a mentor for people on your team, especially for new hires on the team, I think that's fine. But embarking is kind of a strange word to use on a resume. So you could just say like part of the mentoring team for new hires, or contributed to mentorship of new hires on the team or something along those lines. Intern introduced 3 more subscription plans in the product with upgrade downgrade resulting in a 20%. This is a wonderful bullet point. You told me what you did, how many you did, and what that impact was. This is exactly what you want to do on your bullet points. Strong impact statement of what you did and how that helped the company. Added a toggle switch for auto-playing videos present in a document. In where? Like, where is that document? Was it on Google Drive? Like, why do I care about this? Like, added a toggle switch for auto-playing videos present in a document. So I don't know a ton about React, but I know React uses components and it's not like document based. So this might need a little more explanation as far as like what impact did that have. And then, could you say like based on this, like you had more user engagement or user engagement went up 32% or something like that? Like if you can find those kinds of stats, that can be really helpful. Optimize user experience by providing a button to navigate on cloning documents. Navigate on cloning, again, from a grammatic point of view, doesn't tell me what this did. You optimize user experience by providing a button to navigate on cloning documents. If you added a button to allow a user to clone a document, then you could say, worked as part of the team to allow cloning documents within like internal document management software or whatever. So yeah, I think the whole like documentation management side of this needs a little bit of explanation as far as like what that impact was. So coming back to the skills block. So again, put that skills block at the top, but I think that there's a whole lot more in here that you could probably talk about. Like, how did you build that toggle switch? Knowing React is fine, but like, did you work with components? Did you work with other kind of React libraries? What are some other things in here that you could talk about and sort of speak to? And then you mentioned Swift, but I didn't see anywhere in here how you actually use Swift. So you mentioned that as a language that you know, but none of this tells me anything about how you've actually used Swift yet. Maybe there is down here, so we'll go take a look at that in a moment. But like, again, this is why I want to see, like, this is what I claim to know, and then this is where I've used it. Having Swift on here is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to want to see, like, I don't see Swift mentioned anywhere down here. I mean, Android app, but Swift is iOS. I don't see iOS anywhere in here. So how did you use Swift? If you made an Android app, did you do Kotlin? Did you do Java? Was it a React Native app? If it was React Native, then you need to tell me that you did React Native. If it was Kotlin or Java, then you need to add that in here as a language as well. So a little more explanation might be needed for how you did these. So when I build out these projects, what I like to do is similar to a previous resume that we looked at, where we see the name of the project. If you can give me a GitHub repo to it, that's fantastic. If you can't, that's okay too. If it was a private project for work or whatever, then that's okay. But if you can give me a GitHub repo to it, that would be wonderful. If you can link to any kind of production app, that would be great. Like if you built an Android app and it's actually in the Google Play Store, give me a link to where I can actually go download a copy and like actually see what you built. I think that would be neat to see. And then you don't really have to tell me when you built it unless it was a really long time ago. So in this case, you went to school like 2017 to 2021. If this was a project that you built back in 2017, I might put just the year of when you developed it. If it was recent, like within the last 2 or 3 years, then you don't need dates on any of these. You don't need to put dates on a project if it was within like a recent amount of time. I would usually aim for 2 to 3 years. Anything older than 3 years, I would want to see a date on here to know like, oh, okay, you did that in Android like several years ago. So maybe you weren't using Kotlin. Maybe you were using Java. Maybe you were doing React Native, but it would have been pretty early days for React Native. And so like, have you kept up on that skill since then? Things like that. Those would be questions that I might be asking in an interview, is like asking you to explain some of that. So tell me the name of the project, a GitHub repo, maybe a live link if possible, and then tell me whether it was a group project or a solo project. I like seeing that myself, just so I know, oh, you built this whole thing yourself, or it was a pair project, you did it with one other person, so everybody, like, you both worked on a little bit of everything. If it was a group project, what was your responsibility on the group? What did you do in that team? I want to know what your responsibility was. If you give me a GitHub link, I might be able to go see that in the Git repo. So that's why that kind of thing is helpful to me as a hiring manager. Hey, RC Man, good to see you. Dramatic flailing. I just picture Kermit the Frog, coming in. A geofence web app that highlights the unprivileged areas on a map of a city which are affected by COVID-19 crisis in terms of food, sanitation, and water. I think you could simplify this statement a little bit, but I really like that this is a good, like you're trying to start with a user empathy statement of like what this project is about, what it was used for. So what I think you could probably use here is like, users of the app can see geofenced areas impacted by COVID-19 for food, sanitation, and water supply within a particular city. I think you could simplify the language here a little bit, excuse me. I like, though, that you're calling out that it had, like, this was specifically for underprivileged areas of a city. I think that that's wonderful to see. And so with a project, I like to see this user empathy statement, but then I also like to see a bullet point about, like, what did you learn by building this project? What was like a key takeaway? Like, what was a big thing that you learned, or a big contribution that you made to the project? Like, you figured out how to use Google Map API to be able to, like, do the geofence and actually, like, draw the geofence within the Google Map API or something like that. And then give me a bullet point telling me the whole tech stack of how you built this. Like, what tools did you use to build this project? Because again, coming back to the idea of your skills block, you're telling me what you know. Somewhere else on the page, I need to see how you've used that skill. And so whether that's in the project or whether that's in your work experience, if you put Swift on here, I need to see somewhere else on the page some correlation of where you've used Swift. And so by having another bullet point here for your project of these were the tools that I actually used to build the project, then it helps tie those kinds of things in. Also, when you start building out that tech stack for these projects, you might realize, like, oh, I should also add this other stuff to my skill block. I think you're going to find that this skill block is going to start to fill up a little bit and look a little more full and not have this big empty space over here on the side. So for each of those projects, I think keep that first statement of, like, this is what the app was about and how users use the app. But then add another bullet point for this was like a major contribution that I made or a major thing that I learned about the project. If you've got space on the page, tell me something fun and geeky and interesting that you want me to know about the project. And then give me a bullet point with the tech stack. And tell me, like, what tools do you use to build it out? If you do need a little more room, make sure that all of this text is 10-point font. You could maybe go down to a 9-point font if you really need to, but 9-point font starts to feel like, oh, you squished the font size so that everything's going to fit on the page. At that point, I think you could probably get rid of these horizontal lines just to, like, push these sections together a little bit. But as I said, when we first started looking at this, when we zoom all the way out, you got a lot of empty space up here at the top. You got a lot of empty space down here at the bottom. I think you can afford to, like, span this stuff out a little bit. So I would love to see a lot more information about your projects. Move your skills up to the top. And then, like we talked about, like, some of your bullet points on here were actually quite good. So good job on this.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Thanks for checking that out. I hope that you found it helpful. I always appreciate feedback, so please let me know what you think. I appreciate any subscriptions, so please tell your friends and colleagues about it as well. Check out the website techinterview.guide for more information about when I'm live streaming and all of my free content. Drop by a live stream anytime to ask questions or message me privately, whatever makes you most comfortable. See you next time.